SaiKrishna Prakash is a professor of law, and his scholarship focuses on the separation of powers, particularly executive powers. And he joins us now live from Charlottesville, Virginia. SaiKrishna, appreciate you being with us. So we know that these open hearings, which are set to start next week, is going to mark a whole new phase of the impeachment inquiry. What can you tell us about the process itself so far?
Well, certainly the Democrats in Congress have been examining the president's conduct for several months now. And as you know, several prominent members of the Democratic Party have said that they've been engaged in an impeachment inquiry. What's changed is that the Democrats have actually taken a vote to formalize that process. But the process was always there. And given that there has been a vote, I think we can safely say that the president's likely to be impeached by the House, which will then trigger a trial.
So right now, Republicans have largely dismissed these proceedings. We heard from Republican Senator Lindsey Graham saying today that it was a sham, and he didn't want to actually legitimize any of this testimony by reading it. Yet we know that the White House has added a couple lawyers to their team to sort of work out a strategy here. What sort of, I guess, legal recourse does the executive branch have in this process?
Well, if by legal recourse you mean resort to the courts, the executive branch has no recourse to the courts. This process is utterly controlled by the House and the majority in the House. And then when it gets to the Senate, it'll be utterly controlled by the majority there as well. So this is, partly a legal battle, but it's also partly political, just as the founders intended. And we're seeing sort of both played out very publicly, and we'll see it even more so once the hearings become public.
From the testimony that you've heard, do you think the president's actions result in the realm, or rather the impeachment umbrella, of high crimes and misdemeanors?
I think the phrase high crimes and misdemeanors is extraordinarily broad, and I think it covers misuse of governmental authority. If you believe the president, in reaching out to the Ukrainians, was seeking to use government aid as a lever to receive negative information about an opponent or a political opponent, then I think you can impeach him for that. I think there's a question as to what his motives are. If you have a dim view of the president, you're more likely to think his views or his motives were nefarious. If you have a more benign view of him, you're more likely to think he was trying to battle corruption. Both parties have been willing to receive information from foreign nations. And the question always is, what's the motivation for receiving that information?
All right, SaiKrishna Prakash, really appreciate you being with us. Thanks so much for your analysis.